Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the nerdiest competition ever created by the Language of Bromance team. In this corner, obsessed with Star Wars and anything with swords, Richard! And in this corner, obsessed with the Ninja Turtles and scared of anything from the ocean, Shawn! Brought to you as a Pod Bros exclusive in association with the LOB Army. Tonight's competition is a Language of Bromance draft.
What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And we are speaking the language of bromance. And this is another episode where I kick Shawn's ass in what we have affectionately called our bromance drafts.
Well, Richard, in this draft, I'm going to drive your ass to the finish line and drop you off in second place, because today, Richard, for the 46th time, what we are going to do is our famous vehicle draft. What this is, if you don't know what our drafts are, there's 7 rounds, NFL-style episodes where we flip-flop picks back and forth. So whoever has the first pick in the first round gets the first pick in the second round. Back in the day, we flipped a penny to see who goes first, and I won. So on odd drafts, I get the first pick. Even drafts, Richard gets the first pick. This is an even draft, so Richard, you will get the first pick for this episode. And this one I'm excited about because it's a little bit different than what we've done before, and it is famous vehicles. So famous pop culture or famous vehicles in general. Our buddy from Ectoplasm Podcast gave us this idea. He mentioned kind of sci-fi. We kind of twisted it a little bit to make it our own. But that's what we are doing here today, Richard, is our famous vehicle drafts. And I will cue you up as you get the first pick in this draft.
First pick.
Barbie convertible.
You nailed it. The dream house doesn't count as a vehicle, right? No, Shawn, for my first pick, I have to pick. So I feel like when you're talking about a vehicle, I feel like a vehicle it needs personality. You know, it needs to have a personality that's its own and something that kind of develops. Okay, like and this isn't on my list at all, but let's say the car from Knight Rider. Okay, the car from Knight Rider talked to Kit and whatever, and it had kind of a personality to it. Shawn, that's not what I'm talking about when I'm saying personality. I feel like the car has to have its own little quirks. Not the car, the vehicle. The vehicle has to have its own little quirks, has to have a personality on its own. It has to be fickle, and it has to be iconic for me. Okay. So Shawn, when you're talking about an iconic vehicle, there is bar none greater. This vehicle has been in in tons of movies. Not tons. It's been in quite a few movies. You've seen it everywhere. It's been handled by a myriad of different people. Shawn, first round pick. If you're talking about a classic, iconic vehicle, you have to go with a Millennium Falcon.
There you go.
Millennium Falcon. Bar none.
So the way I kind of look at this is kind of like you're going to that car show where it's kind of like it's boats, cars, planes, and you pull up with your 7 top of your line vehicles, and that's when I think you roll in with that. People are going to want to look at it. You know, that's a whole day in itself exploring the nooks and crannies of the Millennium Falcon. And
okay,
it's like your thing too.
So let's talk about this, son. So the first time you saw the Millennium Falcon was in the original 1977 Star Wars film, okay? And and it was heralded as like one of the fastest ships in the fucking galaxy, and piloted by Han Solo, co-pilot Chewbacca, and everybody's hanging out in the Millennium Falcon, and they're shooting guns and they're shooting down TIE fighters. And by the end of the first movie, you don't really have any feelings about the ship itself. Like, you're just like, oh, it's a fast ship. And even Luke comments like, what a piece of junk, because it's seen as kind of an older, like, it's like Han Solo's driving around a fucking Pinto, okay? But it's not a Pinto, Shawn. But okay, so by the end of the first movie, like, you're like, okay, it's a ship, it's fast, and okay, but you don't feel like it's like a character. The ship doesn't feel like a character, I would say.
I get that.
Now let's go to Empire Strikes Back. When you get to Empire Strikes Back, I feel like the ship is where it kind of the ship in and of itself, I feel, kind of has a character arc in the Empire Strikes Back, where like the hyperdrive cuts out, at the dramatic moment. It's like, all right, we're gonna outrun this fucking Star Destroyer. Whoop, 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 whoop. Oh shit! They told me they fixed it. It's not my fault. Okay, so the whole throughout the second movie, like, he's dodging space slugs, and like I said, the hyperdrive doesn't work. They fly to Bespin. They meet Lando, who apparently was the original fucking owner of the Millennium Falcon.
Good point. Yeah, this ship gets around a little bit,
right? And then you get this like, well, what's the story behind this ship? And you find out like. And Han's working on the ship the whole, like, throughout, most of the fucking Empire. Like, they're working on trying to fix the ship, and the ship. So by the end of the second movie, the ship like kind of has a personality to it. Like, I feel like you get invested in this ship almost. Like, oh my God, is the hyperdrive going to work this time? And then Lando gets in the fucking cockpit and he's like, all right, let's do it. And they fucking tries to turn on the hyperdrive. Hyperdrive doesn't work. And he's like, it's not my fault. They told me they fixed it. Okay, now let's go to Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi. Shawn, this is the ship that blew up the Death Star on the second go around. Piloted by Lando Calrissian, not Han Solo. When you get to Return of the Jedi, but when you get to the third movie, you get invested. You're not you're invested in this ship. There's at one point Lando's flying the ship like through the inside of the Death Star. Well, actually, okay, so in Return of the Jedi, Lando's flying the ship, and big giant space battle outside the Death Star, and they're flying around and they're killing shit and everything's going fine. They fly inside the Death Star and he's flying around. At one point he fucking he kind of does a little bit of miscalculation. The ship takes a hit. Like, he scrapes the side of something, and for a second you're kind of like, like, oh my God, yeah. Like, did he fuck up the ship?
Doesn't it lose the satellite?
It loses he loses the deflector dish. Yeah. They're like, watch out. And he hits the thing. He's like, ooh, that was too close. And you're like, don't fuck up the ship.
Well, that's a good, like, you think of like vehicles, like the tail of the vehicle itself usually has the magic in it. Like, and the Millennium Falcon has like a ton of tales about it. So as you're going through this, like, do you think the Solo movie adds to that character?
Yes.
Of the Millennium Falcon?
Yes. Hands down. Okay. So, and also in Return of the Jedi, you have Han and Lando talking about, like, Han's like, I want you to take her. Go ahead and take the ship. She's the fastest ship in the fleet. Like, take her. And then he's like, I know what it means to you. Like, she won't get a scratch. And then Han's like, I got your promise. Not a scratch, right? And then, no, he ends up fucking knocking the dish off, but whatever. Okay. So that's through the original trilogy. Now, you don't really see, I think there's a moment where in the prequels, there's a moment where you catch the Millennium Falcon just kind of in the background of maybe one shot. I can't remember. I think it's in episode 3. It's just kind of like sitting in a, like there's no attention drawn to it whatsoever or anything like that.
I don't know
Okay.
if I've ever caught that. So it is actually in the prequel.
I think it's, like I said, it's episode 3. I think there's like a big wide shot where you kind of just see the ship parked, and it might be a ship. It might not be the Millennium Falcon specifically. It could just be any Corellian.
I gotcha.
Transport. Yeah.
Like it.
Okay. So now let's go to the newer movies. Let's go to 7, 8, and potentially and eventually 9. Okay. So you get to 7, and you see, and Finn and Ray are running through the desert, and they're like, all right, we gotta get out of here. And they're like, oh, what about that ship over there? And she's like, that's one garbage. And then the ship they're running to blows up, and they're like, the garbage will do. And the camera pans over, and you see the fucking Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
And your heart like kind of jumps. You're like, oh, it's the Millennium Falcon.
Crowd erupts.
It
like
did.
If you went, like opening weekend, it was like, oh, that's our ship.
Yeah. They're like, why'd they call it garbage? It's the Millennium Falcon. And everybody loses their mind because fuck yeah, it's the Millennium Falcon.
I mean, Han looked like all over spaceport when he found it. It was like coming home. I mean, that was their home.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
So Chewie, we're home.
And so in 7, like from the original movies to episode 7, that ship had developed. That ship became a character.
I agree.
That ship was a character unto itself. You know, you do see it in 8. It shows up in 8. There's a battle in 8 where, you know, Chewie is flying the ship and Rey's in there, and it shows up, and then Kylo Ren's like, blow that piece of junk out of the sky, and all the fighters like go off it, and then fucking who was it? Poe was like, oh my god, she drew them all off, and Finn's like, oh, they hate that ship.
Blow up my inheritance now.
Yeah. And like I said, like that ship is a character. By the time you get to episode 7, that ship is a character, and you were as invested. If something happens to that ship, you were just as invested as if something happens to a character in one of the movies. And then you go to Solo, and you get kind of like the backstory of that ship. How did that ship end up in Han's hands? How did the ship, end up looking the way it fucking does?
Well, I'd be curious to see, because like Lando just kind of has it. Like, how did Lando get that ship? How far back does that ship go?
Right. Well, and also, and what's interesting, and one of the things that I feel like Solo doesn't get enough credit for is, in a way, it kind of explains how the ship gets a personality without having a personality.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah,
because there's the one robot, and I can't, L3, where her memory and navigational core is downloaded into the ship, and then they're like, oh, she's part of the ship now. That droid had a personality in the movie, and then you feel like it becomes part of the ship.
Yeah. So whenever the ship does kind of awkward, weird stuff, like it's like kind of explains that.
Yeah, in kind of a roundabout way. But like I said, that ship is you're just as invested in that ship as you are in any of those characters, I feel. And so that's why it's my number 1 pick. I'm going with the Millennium Falcon.
That's a good pick. That was on my list for sure. I knew you were probably getting it pretty early, so it was pretty far down my list. So for my number 1 pick, I'm going to go into kind of my love, the thing that just excites me. I won't bury the lead too much on it, but it's the Ninja Turtles van from the 1989 series, the 1999 series. So this is like when you're thinking like toys and stuff like that. This was marketed for kids.
Yes,
like, if you had like a real life version of this.
I had one.
I never had this. I've got the full season DVD set that comes in one of these. It comes in a turtle van. It's not really operational. But you have this thing. It's got like, I mean, it's funny with the turtles because they didn't really bury the fact or try to hide the fact that they were turtles. Like on the front of this van, it said Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, it did.
A turtle-shaped van.
Yeah. The whole top of the van was a turtle shell.
Yeah.
That opened up. Like you open the way the toy went was like the roof opened up so you could like, play with the turtles in there. I do remember that the door was kind of weird. The door was kind of like what you'd see in like an RV.
Yeah, it like pops out.
Like,
it doesn't really like slide.
Yeah, like on the toy, I remember the bottom like popped out and down, and like it was a set of stairs, and then the top it was almost like a barn door. Like the top part swung out, and then the bottom part swung down.
But I mean, this is like you think about like walking through the Millennium Falcon would be pretty cool. But, like this, you walk inside of it, you got the computers, you got the little door that push you out where you can shoot the sewer lids at people.
Yeah,
it's a very iconic looking thing for kids my age and whatnot. And I think like you show up with something like this when in a one of those car shows, like it's gonna get some attention. You roll up there, it's gonna have a nice little sound system to it, I'm sure, nice little exhaust going, and everybody's gonna want to check it out. I always find it funny with like the Turtles TV series. There's like fan theories out there that the turtles lived in this universe where they were known a lot more than like all the other ones.
Yeah.
So seeing like the turtle van rolling down the road was like, oh my God, that's the famous turtles. Because just because it wasn't something that was hidden. But it's a van. God, it'd be so cool to have. Like I'm looking at pictures of it right now. It's got a cool color scheme, green and peach. It's not really yellow. It's more peach. There's a good one here where it's like people are dressed up as Shredder and April. You can serve pizzas out of it. That's actually the thing you want to do. You get a turtle van, you start your own pizza business.
There you go. That's a good point.
But yeah, my number one, I am going to go with the Ninja Turtle van.
All right. You know what? I forgot to mention. You were talking about walking around on the Millennium Falcon, and I meant to mention like so. They're building a replica fucking Millennium Falcon at the new Star Wars part at Disneyland, and I personally like I would love to walk around it, but I want to walk around it like by myself.
Yeah,
like the thought of like going through like this big line and like walking through the ship like with this giant line of people in front of me and behind me, that doesn't sound all that appealing to me. But if I could like just walk around in the ship like by myself, I'm
sure they have that, or they keep like a limited number of people in there.
Like
so, we talk.
I'm not kidding, Shawn. Like I think if like when I get to do that, I'm fairly certain I'm going to cry.
Yeah,
Is
that something?
I'm like 90% sure that if that when I get to walk around in a life-size fucking Millennium Falcon, like tears are gonna roll down my face. Like you hear that story Kevin Smith talks about when he walks around the Millennium Falcon, and like he like as soon as he steps on the ship, like he starts crying. Like that's gonna be me. That's totally gonna be me.
Is that something you want to do like with your family, or like legit just completely by yourself?
Both, but me first.
You can stay out here.
Yeah, give me 5 minutes. All right. So where are we at? We're at number 2. Ooh, this is hard. This is hard because there's ones I want to pick, but like I want to save one for the very end. Like, yeah. But I feel
I've got 2. So whatever. If you feel like there's one of these, I'm good.
I feel like there's things you're gonna steal from me. Well, okay. So this was probably gonna be your second one, but I'm taking it because it's mine and I want it. So we talked about cars with we talked about vehicles with personality. And there's definitely a car with personality, a car that is quintessential. It's the MacGuffin of a series of movies. It's a plot point. It's the centerpiece of this trilogy of movies, Shawn. You got to go with the DeLorean for number 2.
It's a good one. I had that one again. That was one I felt you would take pretty early, so it's kind of towards the bottom of my list. But yeah, I mean, you have multiple stages of this vehicle too. Like you have when it was first created, then you have when it's got the trash compactor version. Where it can fly. So like if we get legit, like it can do what you want it to. I'm guessing you're going to get the version of it that can fly, right? Like that's the one you'd want.
Yeah. Okay. So if we're talking which one I would want So Back to the Future 2. I would want. That's the one I want.
End of one.
Yeah, it's got the Mr. It's got the Mr. Fusion on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's it's such an iconic car. It's got the suicide doors. It's a car that I was at a thing maybe 6 months ago and somebody had a DeLorean there.
Oh,
and just walking
nice.
by it was like and it's not it's not one we use in the movies or anything like that.
No.
But it's a really well done replica. And it had Illinois license plates that said out of time, which was awesome.
Oh, that's so great.
But you see it and you're like, oh, I didn't even want to sit in it because it just felt so you felt like you're a part of history, even though it's movie history. If that
it's like going to church.
Yeah, kind of.
You approach it with like reverence.
Yeah. I'm not worthy.
But yeah, okay. So like again, it's a car that is it kind of has it has a personality. It has a character arc. The car becomes a character in those movies. You're invested in that fucking car. You're invested in that car by the end of the You're invested in that car by the end of the first movie. I mean, I would say, by comparison to the Millennium Falcon was a ship that helped bring the characters together and, take them from one place to the other. I mean, when you're talking about the DeLorean, it's a fucking plot point. Like it's within 10 minutes, they're like, look at this fucking car. This car can fucking travel through time. And then you're like, oh.
It's whole part of the movie. Without that, there's no movie.
Exactly.
I mean, you could say with Star Wars, if there was no Millennium Falcon, there could still be a movie.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be some other ship, but if the Millennium Falcon blew up in the first movie, would there be the rest of the movie? Yeah, sure. You'd figure out ways around it. But in this, if the DeLorean got destroyed, then there's no movie. Be like, oh, I guess we can't time travel. The end credits.
It does in 3, but then it's like, okay, now we got time traveling train. You're like, oh, that's not as cool. But
as cool. Not as cool as a DeLorean. Which is funny because the DeLorean was apparently a shit car. Like nobody wanted them.
I remember hearing that, yeah. I'm surprised they haven't made a comeback off that.
Well, they kind of did. I mean,
oh, did they?
Well, you still see people driving it around. I saw one like in the wild, not like,
really?
Not, it wasn't, a replica fucking, DeLorean that had like, all the shit from the movie on it, but it was an actual DeLorean. Saw it on the fucking highway.
Did you stop him? Like, where the fuck did you come from?
I pulled up next to it. And I just like stared at it for as long as I could before I had to take my exit. Oh my God. It was so sweet. I was like, and it was even like that color. Like it wasn't, nice. it was
but that's the only color they came in, right?
I think so, but I don't know. I don't know that much about the car in and of itself. I just know that it was manufactured. It was kind of seen as, not that great a car. And so they didn't make a lot of them.
Yeah. Were they were just ugly, right? Like they weren't they didn't have like mechanical issues, did they? Or were they?
No, I don't think it had mechanical issues. I think it was just seen as kind of ugly. Lesser. and somewhat impractical, with the doors and everything, You made a time machine out of a DeLorean. Love that car. But the question is, do you think, is that car seen as ugly now? No.
No, I mean, it's kind of got like a nostalgia factor on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you said, somebody didn't even have a replica of the show DeLorean, just a DeLorean. You're like, holy shit, I drove all the way to Iowa just watching this thing.
Yeah, right? I probably would have. Car was I was just driving down the highway and then I look over and I'm like, holy shit, that's a DeLorean. I was by myself in the car and I said it out loud. I was like, holy shit, it's a DeLorean. And I fucking like speed up. If I got like pulled over, I'd be like, no, you don't understand.
Wait, no, it was the real
cop
DeLorean.
Would be like, wait a minute, DeLorean.
I feel like it's that and like the Oscar Mayer hot dog vehicle or the two. You're like, holy shit.
Yeah, kind of. I feel like
see that thing right.
I would probably have the same reaction. Like it's the Wienermobile.
Yeah, a wiener whistle. Always wanted one of those.
This was an Oscar Mayer wiener. But yeah, okay. So, I mean, what else? What else can I say about this? About the DeLorean? If you had one, would you? Okay, it's. I'm sure it's probably very pricey to get all the, to have it look similar to what it was in a movie in the movie. To get all the like the gadgets and whatnot on there.
Yeah.
So if you had one, would you try to make it look like it did in the movie? Like, would you put a flux capacitor and stuff on it, or would you just be
I
like,
think you have to.
eh.
Like, I don't think you could even do it like cheap, like, like a printed out version of, like, you have to have something that looks semi working, because I think it's one of those things that, like, you drive that up to a gas station and there's going to be like 20 people. It's like, holy shit, can I get a picture in that?
Yeah, yeah.
And they step in and it's like a cardboard flux capacitor. You'll be like, oh, well, it's cool, but they walk in, it's like it looks like a working flux capacitor.
Yeah.
You'll be like, holy shit, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So it definitely, like, I think of all the vehicles I'd want to invest my own money to make, that would probably definitely be one of them.
Yeah, yeah. So if you had, yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like if I had one, like let's say I had some, weird uncle that died and this car was left to me in an inheritance, I'd be like, well, shit, now I got to sink 10 grand into this to make it look like that. You're like, oh, well, I'm stuck with now having to make this look like a Back to the Future car. And then my wife's like, I'm hungry. And I'm like, no, we got to buy a flux capacitor now.
Yeah. But I think you take that to like different shows and stuff. You could definitely win a lot of prizes on a car like that.
Yeah. Apparently they have clubs of like all these people that, that own these cars.
There's probably like 10,000 of them out there. Like, it's like you wouldn't be anything special.
Well, I think in the production line, I think they said they made like they made like 15 or 20,000.
Oh, I gotcha. Of the DeLoreans.
Of the DeLoreans. Yeah. Yeah. And the movie, I think they said they made 6 for the
oh wow,
for the movies. So there were 6 that actually saw screen time. I think that sounds right, but I mean, come on, it's the DeLorean. So that's Shawn. That's number 2. Gotta go with the DeLorean.
I like it. That's a good pick. For my second round pick, I am going to go to the sky, Richard, and it's the sky you can't take from me. This is from a TV show that you introduced me to, became a movie, and the ship wasn't really, I'd say, it was a pretty good focal point, but I think it was definitely a good kind of bringing everybody together. It was kind of that home, kind of that safety net. It was the thing that lets you fly in the sky. Richard, what I would love to take to a show, what I'd love to fly in on would be a Firefly class, and specifically the one named Serenity.
I mean, yeah.
It's got a lot of the same things as the Millennium Falcon when you talk about, like, it's got, it's a place where people live. It's a place where people kind of learn their task and learn their emotions, and it's just a really cool design ship too, because it does look like a Firefly, and it's got a lot of my favorite episodes from Firefly were the ones that kind of came around this ship. There's the one out of gas, which was a big thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, I just looked this up to kind of see, talking about lines that kind of like pull at your heartstrings, because Serenity is really, I think, the ship, whenever you think of it, it ties a lot to like when like actual sailors and stuff like that talked about their ships. Serenity had a lot of that. Millennium Falcon, kind of to an extent, but Serenity was that like, this is, I'm going down with this ship kind of mentality.
Right.
And so, like, I think you get that at the end of the Serenity movie, and where Mal says, like, he's talking to River, he says, "It ain't all buttons and charts, little albatross. Know what the first rule of flying is? Well, I suppose you do, since you already know what I'm about to say." And he says, "Love. You can know all the math in the verse, but take a boat in the air that you don't love, she'll shake you off just as sure as turn the worlds. Love keeps her in the air when she ought to fall down, tells you she's hurting, for she keens, makes her a home." And I always kind of feel like, Millennium Falcon, I felt like was really like, Han Solo's home and everything too. But Serenity and Mal, like, it felt like this more machine and human bond. Like when you talk about like, oh my God, I love my car. It's my car. It's, it's gotten me through so much. I feel like that's the same thing with Serenity. And it really brought a lot of other people together too. You know, you think of like Tour Bus or something like that, and Serenity really had that feel to me.
Yeah, I would agree. It's funny. Okay, so let's say that Serenity looked like a spaceship you would see from, you know, say the 1960s, where everything is very clean and very clinical, you know, like it's, you know, I feel like, you know, you wouldn't care about it as much. I think it's like it's almost it's the dirt and it's the grime and it's the fact that sometimes shit breaks. I think you know,
I feel like it ties back to like the ships of the olden days when people were crossing the ocean. It's like, this ship shouldn't, like, this isn't a safe ship to be on. You're like, yeah, I know, but I trust it. Like I have some sort of inanimate trust with this thing that I know it's looking out for my best interest.
Yeah, it makes it. I feel like it makes it relatable because, like, okay, you know, obviously, Shawn, you know, everybody remembers their first car.
Yeah,
you know, and your first car, it wasn't, you know, I mean, at least for me, like, you know, and I'm sure for you, like the first car you owned, like it wasn't a brand spanking new car. You know, it wasn't a car that you know, pulled off a lot with 0 miles on it. Like it was a car that had some wear and tear on it. And it was a car that had, you know, but it was that sign of your, you know, it was a sign of like, you know, this is yours and, you know, you can take it anywhere you want to go. And you did. And you took it all fucking over the place. Like I drove, like, oh my God, I drove my first car. I drove that fucker everywhere. And there were, and never once, I think it broke down on me once. And it was a super easy, cheap fix. Like, but that car was always reliable. That car took me anywhere I wanted to go, and the car developed like like, and I think that's why we like those kinds of things, like the Millennium Falcon or Serenity. It's, you know, you relate to that bond that Han has with the Falcon, that Mal has with Serenity. Like you relate to it because it's like it's like the bond you had with your first car. Almost.
I think that's a good comparison because like your first car, it's like, how's this thing fucking still running?
Yeah,
but it does. It doesn't break down on you. It's reliable. You know, when you turn the key, it's going to start, or it's going to do that like chug a couple times, but you know it's going to kick off. And what I love about like Serenity too is when you see Mal going and, you know, shopping for ships, it's almost as though he doesn't choose Serenity, but Serenity chooses him.
Yeah,
and a lot of times I feel like your first car is kind of like that because you can't go out and just buy like a brand spanking new car. It's kind of the one that fell into the lap of you, or, you know, if your parents chucked in a couple bucks to help you out.
Yeah.
You know, it's not brand new. It's had some wear, but it just kind of found its way into your arms. And that's how I feel about like Serenity, like my first car for sure.
Yeah. It's got that lived in feel, and that you're just, it's almost like you're just a step in that car's journey.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense.
You know, but everybody remembers their first car, and everybody still has like a genuine love for their first car. Didn't matter how fucking old.
I still had my first car.
So do I, Shawn. My first car was a Escort wagon. It was a station wagon. It was a 1986 Ford Escort wagon. It was a 4-seater. It had, you know, front doors. It had 2 side doors. It had but then the whole back was like, you know, had the whole state. It wasn't like a full size station wagon, but it had like, you know, the lift up, you know, station wagon kind of look in the back. I love that car.
Yeah, I miss mine because I had a 91 Cavalier. It was red. And it's just, you know, I had it for like 2.5, 3 years. You learn to drive it stick shift. And the thing that makes me sad is it's probably like in a, you know, junkyard somewhere.
Yeah. That's how I feel too. I feel like it's probably, I mean, shit, the car was made in 86. It's probably sitting somewhere collecting dirt.
But yeah, that's my number 2, kind of like a sentimental pick as well, but it's the Serenity.
Yeah. And it's got that lived in feel. That's what I don't remember who it was that explained when it came to the future, they said, that movies, always depicted vehicles and just the setting in general was very clean and clinical. And Star Wars came along and kind of depicted what he called the lived in future, where, it was considered the future, but everything was kind of old still.
Yeah, which makes sense.
That's
what you're gonna get. You're gonna get used things.
Yeah,
these aren't gonna be brand spanking new.
And it's and I feel like that way with Serenity. Like it's yes, you're in the future, but it's the ship's old. It's got and it's that age that kind of gives it personality, and the fact that it doesn't always work 100%. All right, number 3. For my third pick, I'm gonna go with a car that I wanted when I was a kid, and it was a car that everybody wanted when they were kids. It's gone through a bunch of different iterations, so it's hard to peg down which actual version of this car I would want. But I think that I feel like I'm gonna leave it a little bit ambiguous because, like I said, like there's so many different variations of this car throughout a very long string of films. But I'm going to say it, and then everybody's going to know what I'm talking about. Shawn, for my third round pick, I'm going to go with the Aston Martin from James Bond.
Good pick. That's definitely one that's changed a lot for sure.
I mean, that's the thing is like the car generally looked the same, but I mean the whole thing with James Bond, the Aston Martin, the whole thing was like, oh, look at all these cool fucking gadgets. Oh, I'm driving the car, I'm gonna push a button and rockets shoot out the front. Or
flames are gonna come out the front.
Fucking like buzzsaws jump, come out the sides. Oh, somebody sit in the passenger seat. Oh, let's bring up the ejector seat.
Oh my God, we're gonna fall in the water. Submarine mode.
Yeah, but and it all varied from movie to movie. All the different fucking weird gadgets you could slap on this fucking car, and that's over how many fucking movies? Like 12, 14? I think
it's been a bunch. Yeah.
So
which version do you like? I kind of like the newer version that they've shown to me, but that's kind of what I've been more exposed to.
You mean from like the oh God, what's his name? Daniel Craig, like the Daniel Craig kind of era. I kind of like that one. I seem a bit more partial to the car around the time Pierce Brosnan was Bond.
Okay.
I felt like I feel like that's the like a good mix of the realistic and practical with the slightly unpractical. I mean, I think that when Pierce Brosnan was Bond, I feel like they tried to make a little bit of an effort to make things be like, oh, this could function in the real world. Like, oh, you could totally do this. But at the same time, they'd be like, hey, it's a fucking movie. Like,
Yeah. Isn't the Daniel Craig one, aren't those a lot more realistic?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I feel like when it came to,
I guess.
Yeah, with Daniel Craig, I feel like they made a lot more effort to make it more grounded and something that was way more believable. Which is fine, but I want a car that shoots fucking rockets out the front.
Yeah.
And I think everybody would agree with me. Like, okay, yeah, the car, has cool gadgets, but, it doesn't shoot rockets out the fucking front of it. Doesn't have machine guns on the side, does it? No. I want a car that turns into a submarine. I don't want a car that has, it's got GPS. Yeah, that's cool.
Great, welcome to 2008.
So the Aston Martin the Aston Martin in and of itself, it looks like kind of a sporty car. It's kind of like something you'd see in like Roman Holiday, like that kind of like sporty Italian kind of car. It's a British car.
I've seen some of those in like a flat black color. That looks pretty sharp.
The cars from the movie are so in demand. In 2010, Shawn, an Aston Martin sold for $4.6 million.
You can buy you like 4.3 million DeLoreans.
So like I said, like there's a bunch of different iterations of this car. Like this car changed, the different gadgets and stuff varied from movie to movie. And in some cases the car in and of itself varied. Like it wasn't always an Aston Martin. In some cases it was in a couple movies, or in one movie in The Spy Who Loved Me, they used a 1977 Lotus Esprit.
I wonder if that was like kind of the time where advertisers got in a little bit more. It's like, yeah, I know he's done the Aston Martin thing. Let's try this out.
I mean, in Pierce Brosnan's time, I don't even know if I think he used an Aston Martin for one or two movies. I'm trying to think. For the most part, he used it was a more of a sporty car. He used, let's see. Oh my God, I found the list. He used a Mercedes-Benz, like a Mercedes-Benz and like a Rolls-Royce. Daniel Craig used an Aston Martin for the most part in his movies. They went
back to that.
Yeah. The World Is Not Enough. That's the Aston Martin DB5 was the one that Pierce Brosnan used for the, which just, I mean, it looks like a cool fucking car. It kind of looks, it's kind of similar to, oh God, like an old, like in the 60s Mustang.
Oh yeah.
Where it kind of has like the big kind of scoopy front
on the sides
and the small cab. But I feel like for Brosnan's movies, I felt like the car had cooler gadgets. That's just me.
So you'd want one with like obviously probably not working gadgets, but you'd have all the gadgets where you could pop out, like a machine gun pops out.
Yeah, like shit. Like I want to shoot rockets out the fucking front of it. And I don't feel like that's a unreasonable request.
That's not too much to ask.
Yeah, like the GoldenEye era. GoldenEye, The World Is Not Enough. That was the era. That's the kind of when I think James Bond's Aston Martin, that's where my brain goes.
That's what you think?
Yeah. So there you go. That's my third pick. I want a car that shoots rockets out the front. Going with James Bond's Aston Martin.
Well, Richard, I was very concerned when we talked about different iterations and whatnot. You were going to go with this vehicle. And this is, I think if I had to think of vehicles, this is the one that like instantly like gets my attention.
Yeah.
It's gone through a bunch. I think my first exposure of it was in the 60s, and I like that one. But my favorite version of this vehicle is the one that I'm going to pick for my third round pick, and that is the 1989 Batmobile.
Oh.
So this
You're
is
surprising me there. I didn't think you were going to pick the 80. I didn't think you were going to pick 89's Batmobile.
Which one do you think would be the one I'd go for?
I thought you'd go for the Tumbler.
No, I hated that Tumbler.
Did you?
Yeah, so so I always liked the 60s Batmobile because it felt like a Batmobile. Like it felt different. It felt specific to Batman.
I got to sit in the 60s Batmobile.
Oh,
it
nice.
came to
that?
When I was like well, not when I was a kid. When I was like 12 or 13, it came to the mall where I live, and they had it like on display. And I was like, "Oh my God, it's the fucking Batmobile."
You're like, "Can I sit in?" He's like, "No," but you did it anyway.
Jump the rope. Motherfuckers!
But what I love about 89, so they used that in Batman and Batman Returns. It was like a 2-seater. It had the hood that scooped.
Yeah.
It had the armor. It did have machine guns on it too, which was badass.
It did.
If people got too bitchy, the hubcaps bounced out and dropped some bombs.
They did.
But other ones like this, it looked like a bat. And I've got so many cars of this. I've got 2 small ones, a medium-sized one and a big one of this because it was just such a cool-looking vehicle. I didn't mind the Forever one. The Forever one looked okay. The Batman and Robin one I wasn't too keen on.
I mean, the other... if you're asking me what the first Batmobile that I fell in love with was, it would probably be this one. It would probably be the 89 one. The 66 one, like, looked cool. It had the fucking turbine, the rocket fucking turbine on the back.
Yeah.
In the 60s one, that's awesome.
Always reminded me of a Corvette. The 61 did.
Yeah.
And the 89 kind of had a Corvette-y look to it too, but
if you're asking me what the first Batmobile that I was like, holy shit, that's the fucking Batmobile, it would be this one. So I mean, I can totally see where you're coming from with this. I'm curious why you're so anti-Tumblr.
Well, so my exposure to Batman wasn't it was a little bit of the 60s, but mostly 89, 90 Batman. That was what really got me kind of like exposed to all the characters and everything. I didn't really get to watch the cartoon much. So when they came out with the new Nolan verse, I was like, oh, okay, like I want to see what the Batmobile looks like because it's always iconic. You know, you got the 60s, you got the 89 one. It's a very specific thing. Like it looks like a Batmobile. And it seemed like that was one of the things where Nolan's like, nope, I'm shitting all over this. It's not a Batmobile, it's a Tumbler. And I mean, it puts it in like realism, I guess, but it just there's like
so it's kind of the same argument that I was making about James Bond, the Aston Martin. Like, yeah, you know, like the Tumbler seems more realistic, but like I want a fucking Batmobile that shoots fucking machine guns.
Yeah. I want the Batmobile to have the bat symbol on it, and like people see it and they're like, oh my God, that's Batman's vehicle.
Yeah.
Not, hey, what's the army doing here?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah. Like I said, I just got done making that argument, so I totally understand.
And I'm just saying, like, you roll into McDonald's with that, like, you're going to get some attention.
This is true.
But yeah, that's my third round pick is the 89 Batmobile.
Okay. Number 4. Where are we going for number 4? Yeah, I like this one for number 4. Shawn. Okay, so to me, a car symbolizes freedom. It symbolizes, you know, your ability to get away from things. I mean, I think that's why we love them. I think that's why we love sporty ones. You know, ones that go fucking fast is because ones that look cool is because, like, you know, I want to get away from things. I want to drive off, and I want to drive off in style.
Yes,
Shawn, there's
people to see you driving off.
Exactly, and there is, to me, when you're talking about getting away, there is one car that comes to my mind, and it's a car you probably don't expect. It didn't play a big role in this movie, but I felt like it played significant enough of a role that it totally resonated with me. Shawn, I'm gonna go with the 1961 Ferrari 250 from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Nice. So why this one?
Well, so I love Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and there's a moment where they're like, oh, you know, like we need a car, like we can't pull up in, you know, Cameron's fucking bullshit car. And so they open the doors, and then that music kicks in, and fucking Cameron's like, the 1961 Ferrari 250. Boom, boom. I mean, and that car, like as soon as you saw it, you were like, oh, I like that car.
Is that where like I'm not a car guy, but I like that?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. I am not a car guy, but this is the car that makes non-car guys go, I like this car a lot. And they pull into the fucking parking garage, and the guy's like, ooh, and they, you know, they're like, oh, we're going to take off for the day. And then the two dudes jump in the car and fucking take this car off on a joyride it all damn day. At one point, they are in the car driving like getting like hitting bumps and getting airtime in this car and speeding off and shit. And they are playing the Star Wars theme, Shawn, while this is going on.
Nice little throwback. There you go.
Exactly, right? Da 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 da, and they're like, you see them in the car, like it was a commercial for the car if there ever was one. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But then, okay, so then you get to the end of the movie, they realize there is way too much mileage on this car, and apparently Cameron's dad reads the mileage, and so they're running it in reverse to try and reverse the mileage.
I don't think that's how it works.
That's not how it works. It wasn't working. And at one point, Cameron like gets all pissed off and the car ends up fucking going out a window and crashing. And Cameron is sitting there going, my dad is going to murder me. Like he might actually physically kill me. But he's like, you know what? Fuck it. Like this is going to be Cameron's line in the sand is over this fucking car. So, but I feel like the car's an awesome looking car. And I feel like what the car played in the movie, like made me like the car even more. And funny story, apparently the house that they filmed, like where Cameron lived, that house where they filmed went on sale.
I heard that like fairly recently too. Right?
Yeah, it was fairly recently, like last year or something, where you could own the house that they filmed, these parts of the movie in, and if you bought the house and paid an extra, I think it was like $35,000, they would put this car in the garage.
Oh, nice! That's pretty awesome. That car's got to be worth more than that too, isn't it?
It's gotta be. I think it would be. But yeah, so if you bought the house and you paid a little bit extra, you would get this car. This car would be in your garage. Thought that was a little add-on. So yeah, Shawn, there we go. That's my pick. The car from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I like it. All right, Richard. So for my 4th round pick, this is a family classic vehicle. It's, you think of tried and true vehicles. You want to get across the country to get to your destination, the great American road trip. This is the vehicle that comes to your mind. All you got to do is hum a couple notes from a single song, and you're going to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah?
Holiday Road.
This car was on my list.
Richard,
I know this might be national. Yeah. This might be a car that you thought you were like, oh, I'm going to pick this, and he's going to be like, oh, I didn't think of that one, Shawn. I totally thought of this one.
I thought you'd be like, oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. But yeah, the National Lampoon's Family Truckster. So this vehicle, Richard, you talk about like vehicles that like, picked. No, let's be back up. We talked about vehicles that chose who they were going to belong to. This vehicle chose to belong to this family. Yeah. And they take it cross country. It survives so much stuff and gets them where, Richard? Gets them to their destination. And that's what you want out of a family truckster. Like
Wally World.
Yeah. Griswolds make it all the way there. And guess what, Richard? It's closed.
It's closed.
For the season.
Sorry, folks. Park's closed. God damn you, John Candy.
Yeah. You don't get that with the internet these days. So you just search it. It's like closed for the season. You're like, oh, well. Of course, I don't know how many people do like, and I think what I like about this too is I've always wanted to do that westward great American road trip. We're getting to do the eastern kind of American road trip, but I've never got to go too far west. And that's something I definitely am kind of excited to do at some point in my life.
Yes, you definitely should. I've done it and it's awesome.
I think Tiffany and I have done a couple like long road trips. I think between her and you, they're kind of tied. Like I think you and I have maybe even gone on more like long road trips than her and I have.
Yeah.
And I love getting in the car. I love driving, 6-10 hours in a specific direction because you see so much cool stuff like along the way too.
Yeah.
And especially when you're not trying to like, oh, I got to get from here to California in 20 hours. It's like, oh, I got to get from here to California in the next 6 days. Oh, I'm going to enjoy this whole trip.
I would agree with that because I've driven out like, just kind of like taking my time and whatever. And I've had to drive back like on a limited time window. Like, oh, I've got, like 48 hours. And the 48-hour window was made me, I strongly disliked the trip back. I mean, for multiple reasons, but one of the reasons was definitely the fact that there was a truncated window. But the drive there was like, oh, we've got, 5-6 days. So we'll drive a little bit and stop for a little bit. And it was great.
Yeah.
Fucking
great.
Somebody
like, holy shit, look at this. They've got waffles on a stick. That's crazy. Let's eat there.
I drove past one. My favorite was there was this billboard for some like, like side of the road fucking like store.
Oh yeah.
And they listed like shit they had, and it was like, knives and oh fuck, what are like knives and art, and the one was like knives, art, guy stuff. I'm like, what is guy stuff? I was like, my interest is piqued. Let's find out what this is.
I think it's like guy tampons. Like, I didn't even know we needed that.
It was.
But I think it just kind of sparks that Great American Road Trip, which doesn't seem like it's a thing as much now as it used to be, because flights are fairly cheaper now than what they used to be. So families like, listen, we're not gonna be in the car with our kids and hear them whining the whole way. Let's just get on a plane and fly there, be there in 3 hours instead of 4 days.
Yeah.
And this car takes a beating and keeps on ticking.
It does.
I mean, they had a dog get drugged for like 10 miles. Had grandma on the roof, dead, crashed, survived.
Plus, I mean, as soon as you look at the car, like you said, you look at the car and you think of the song.
But yeah, that's my 4th round pick, Richard. It's the National Lampoon's Family Truckster.
I like it. I like it a lot. Oh, what am I picking for my next one? We're on what, 4 or 5?
Number 5.
We're at number 5.
Johnny Five's live.
Ooh, narrowing the list. Okay, so I'm picking this car. Now, I will say that I think there are a bunch of cars in this movie that are really, really cool, but I'm gonna pick one that's gonna help draw attention to the movie in general and to some of the other ones. Because, Shawn, this is not just a car that, you dream up in your head when you're like 7 years old and you're like, build the coolest car you can think of. And then you're like, okay. And you fucking draw a picture and you're like, okay, but there's no way that car would actually function in real life. Shawn, these are cars. This is a car, and these are cars that were actual cars and existed in the world. Shawn, for my next pick, I'm going to go, and I actually had to Google the name of this car in order to find out what it's called. Shawn, the car I'm going with is the Gigahorse from Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, there you go.
Now, okay, so if you're wondering which car this is the car that the villain of the movie, Immortan Joe, I think that's the guy's name, right? Immortan Joe. Yeah. This is the car that he was in. This was like his. This is the car that he was sitting in.
Oh, like some 70s car stacked on a 70s car stacked on a badass truck.
Exactly. So you look at this and you're like, that looks like a car that a 7-year-old drew when someone asked that 7-year-old, draw the coolest car you could think of in your entire life. Like, look at it. I'm gonna have it, and it's gonna shoot fire out the back, and it's gonna have big old tires on it, and like, yeah, that car would. No, Shawn, that car exists. All those cars in that movie existed in the world, and they drove them around in the fucking desert, and I think that's awesome. Like, those weren't CGI cars. That's not a CGI car, Shawn. That's an actual car that lived.
I mean, that's just, like you said, that's a 7-year-old driving around in his backyard with like a mud tire truck. The sounds of it sound like what you'd make. And behind you got the dude playing the fucking guitar with flames coming out.
With fucking fire shooting out of his goddamn guitar. Are you kidding me?
I'd be all for that.
I would love to have that car.
Oh, and playing it like that was in the desert too. It's like you're dune buggying with that thing.
Right?
And plus, like, you show up at any kind of like car show, and if anybody gives you any shit, you just run over their car.
Yep. Good point. Because that car looks like it would fucking eat other cars. It's got the big old scoopy fucking almost like battering ram thing on the front. Fuck that. Oh, looks so good. But like I said, I picked this car because, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a very cool looking car, but I guess it was more to highlight the fact that, like, you watch Mad Max Fury Road and like all those cars existed. Like, those weren't CGI cars. Those all existed in the world. Somebody built and designed and made all of those fucking cars. And I think that's so cool. And I would love to own one of those cars.
I like it. I like that a lot. I like it.
It's so and like, you know, it bears repeating. They all look like, you know, a 7-year-old's like wet dream of a car. But I don't care. I still want
jump
it.
Really high and smash all the other cars.
Rah, 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 rah.
Well, Richard, from my 5th round pick, you're going from 7-year-olds making cars to basically guys who act like they're 7-year-olds. Richard, you said pick ago. You said I like it. I like it a lot. Made me think very much about this movie. I mean, like everybody kind of likes vans. But you know what people love about vans, Richard?
What's
they love
that?
vans that look like dogs. So, Richard, for
Why
my
were you
5th round
picking
pick,
this fucking car?
I am going to pick the Mutt Cuts van from Dumb and Dumber.
Oh,
I mean,
my
this van,
God.
Richard, you could do so much with. You could do, like he did, you could do a dog grooming service. You could build a hot dog selling stand out of this thing. You could do dog transportation. You could do dog selling. You could do dog anything. Dog, and that's what you get. You can't tell me that you roll up in that thing and ladies see it, because ladies love dogs. They see that and they're like, oh, yeah. That's not a creepy candy van. I'm getting in that thing right meow.
They're so not doing that. There's
I feel like
you watch.
one of those.
I'll tell you what. You watch that entire movie, and you know what's in that van? Bunch of dudes.
Yeah, well, chicks love the shaggin' wagon. But no, that's one of those, like, you talk about the DeLorean rolling up. Like people see that's like, holy shit, that's the DeLorean. You roll up in a Mutt's Cut van. People are going to look at that thing and be like, what the fuck? Like, seriously? Yeah. Invested my whole life savings into this.
That's the kind of car that, like, if you like park in a parking lot, people are going to be like, oh, that looks cool. And then you get out and then you're going to be like, you want to check out the inside? And they'll be like, no.
Can I just get a picture on the outside of it? No, you got to get a picture on the inside.
No,
but it's kind of it's a short and sweet one, but yeah, I just think it'd be cool to have the Mutt Cut van.
Okay. I mean, like I was looking up cars and stuff like that, and that one kind of, you know, showed up and I was like, no. It was one that I thought about putting on my list, but then I was like, no, can't do it.
I think all the ones we've picked so far, it's probably the most realistic one we could get.
Yeah, you're probably right. Well, I mean, we could do that. We'll just get a van and just cover it in fucking shag carpet, and we're good to go.
Put a big tongue on the front and tail on the back, and put a sign on it.
Yeah. All right, Shawn. Pick number 6. I'm gonna go with a car that wasn't really the star of the movie. But I just like the way this car looked. I like the way they shot this car in the movie. I just thought it looked cool. I like the reverence that they kind of had for the car. The movie in and of itself, it was okay, but I felt like the car was kind of a hero of the movie. Shawn, for pick number 6, I'm going to go with the 67 Shelby GT500 from Gone in 60 Seconds.
I sure wasn't. Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, the Shelby Mustang.
Yeah,
you said Gone in 60 Seconds, and I heard Fast and the Furious for some reason.
Oh,
I was like, well, I didn't see that one coming. No, that one's a car that, like, I don't think people would see it and be like, oh yeah, that's the Gone in 60 Seconds car. But
right.
You pull up in that, they're gonna be like, oh wow, that's a badass looking muscle car.
Yeah. And like I said, I said it before, not a car guy, but it's a car that made me want to be a car guy.
Yeah. No, I get that.
That's what I'd say about it. It's a car that made me want to be a car guy.
Those muscle cars, like 67, 68 through like the mid 70s, like, you know, you had the Chargers, you had the Mustangs, like you had all kinds of cars that were just like pure boxes of metal that were just sounded menacing. You know, they took like 6 miles per gallon, but they were just such like manly American feeling things that, makes you want to wave an American flag and jump in and go from 0 to 60 in like 5 seconds.
Yep. Yeah.
I think that's fast. Is that fast? I don't know. I'm not a car guy.
I don't know. Sounds great. Yeah. So I don't know. There really isn't. I mean, like, it looked cool in the movie, and it made me want to own one. So that's why we're at number 6 on my list. I'm sticking with a lot of cars. I don't know why, but I feel like I'm on a run of cars.
Yeah,
we've each had one ship, but no.
Yeah, you got the Mad Max is more of a truck kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'll get us back into space, Richard. And this is I've kind of got a run of funny things, and this one's going to be the same thing. So it's a van. It's a van with wings that flies.
Oh my God, this was also on my list.
Richard, I want to go with Eagle 5 from Spaceballs.
Yes.
Lone Star and his sidekick. This is like when you talk like dirty future, this is dirty future. Like this is like
we've got something on the radar. It looks like Winnebago. Lone Star.
We have to go to ludicrous speed. That's a movie we need to do a commentary on, but it's just kind of a cool, dirty looking vehicle. It's the kind of like you think of like road tripping in space. This is what you and I would jump into road trip through space would be the Eagle 5.
Yes.
Again, not a ton to really kind of teeter on it, but it's just a really cool looking vehicle for space, and kind of my trilogy of funny vehicles in my list.
I like it. This was also on my list because I mean, we talked about the Millennium Falcon. We talked about like, oh, it's a car that's kind of dirty, kind of grimy, has a person, but and that kind of gives it character. Mm-hmm. I would say that this is it's just like this is it's meant to be like funny because it's a fucking Winnebago, but I feel like it kind of pulls on the same themes that you get from Millennium Falcon. Obviously, the Eagle 5 doesn't fly around and fucking shoot at things, but I mean, it's a Winnebago with wings. It's fucking cool. It's cool. It's just cool.
That's the future I want to live in, honestly.
I want to live in. Yeah, exactly. That would be the spaceship that I would end up with. That's what I think. That's why I'm so fond of it, because that's what I would end up with. All
right, so we're at our money shot pick, Richard.
Number
so what do you
7.
have for your number 7 money shot pick?
All right, so this one's hard. Oh, you know what? I lied. It's not that hard. I just needed to gather my thoughts. Needed to look at my list. Shawn, my money shot pick. It's not something you thought of at all. Shawn, we talked about spaceships. We talked about, vehicles. We've talked about time machines. Shawn, for my money shot pick, I'm going to pick something that hits the trifecta. Shawn, this is a vehicle that travels through time and space. For my money shot pick, I'm going with something that has personality, that is a spaceship, that is so vast that you actually don't know how big it is. All you know is that it's bigger on the inside. Shawn, pick number 7. Gotta go with the TARDIS. The time and relative dimension in space.
That's a good pick. I didn't even think about that one. But yeah,
it travels through space, travels through time. As soon as you hear the sound, you know exactly what it is.
And the inside of it's pretty cool too. Like you got like the big thing in the center. It's like this big like control center. It's got, like, housing place.
Yeah, and it changes from doctor to doctor in most cases. Has a complete, they just changed the desktop format. So that's it always looks different depending on what doctor it is. In some cases, it changes from season to season. Same doctor, but the whole thing will look different.
Is it actually change the inside, or is it just different cord or different like places inside of the TARDIS.
No, it
Or do you
changes.
even really know?
Well,
It doesn't.
I guess you don't. I guess you don't really know. But I mean, it's gone through how many? I honestly I don't even know how many different iterations of the TARDIS there is. But it's a police box. But then you look at it on the outside, Sean. It's a police box.
Yeah, but on the inside, ginormous.
And on the inside, it's a ginormous fucking spaceship that can also travel through time. Oh God, I mean, what else can I say about it? It definitely has personality. It has a living, almost a living matrix inside of it. There was an episode when Matt Smith was the Doctor. There was an episode where this evil entity pulls the consciousness of the TARDIS out of the ship and places it inside a human. Neil Gaiman wrote this episode, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's called The Doctor's Wife is the name of the episode, where the Doctor actually ends up talking to the TARDIS because the TARDIS is now inside a person.
That seems very Gaiman.
Oh, it was so great. It was really great. I mean, they had oh fuck, what were they doing? Oh, at one point, they're trying to figure out how to get out of this planet they're on, and she's like 700 years. Oh wait, no, she's like, on the front of my doors, it has a sign. What does the sign say? And he's like, pull to open. And she's like, what do you do? He's like, I push. And she's like, 700 years. He never bothers to read the sign. He's like, you know what? And he throws his shit down. He's like, since we're talking, I just want to say that you have not always been reliable. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you didn't always take me where I wanted to go. And she's like, no, but I always took you where you needed to go. And he's like, oh, he cries at the end of the episode. It was a really great episode. And I feel like it, like the TARDIS always had personality. Like I said, the show's been on for 50 plus years. Like the show, like obviously the TARDIS has a personality to it, but I feel like that kind of encapsulated not only that the TARDIS has a personality, but that there's a relationship between the Doctor and the TARDIS that's just as strong as the relationship between Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon. And yeah,
that's kind of the tale of all these, is the connection of who is driving or manning the ship and the ship itself.
Yeah.
Good money shot pick. Let's see. All right. For my 7th round money shot, Rich Pickard, I think this will be the one I want to go with. We recently just saw a teaser trailer for it. And when the tarp over the car flipped up, everybody lost their mind.
Yeah.
I want to go with the Ghostbusters Echo 1.
Yeah.
So this is it's got a very iconic look, very iconic sound. It doesn't play a huge part in the movie, I don't think, as much as like the cartoon. It was like a huge thing, but
yes,
it's definitely one of those you roll up in, you got the sirens going. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you got the song blaring. And again, like you got Echo 1 on the back, like, with the DeLorean, it's out of time. You got Echo 1 on this one. So,
yep.
It's definitely kind of got that childhood. It always reminded me of almost like the Munsters car a little bit, with just kind of how it had the wings on the side.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But you got
plus, I mean, come on, it's the Ghostbusters, and the car was a hearse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Great point. So, but yeah, my number 7 is going to be that Ghostbusters Echo 1.
Oh,
I guess I should have more to say about it, but it's just like that.
Well, yeah, nice, I mean, there isn't anything you really need to say about it. You're like Echo 1, and everybody's like, well, yeah.
I'd like a picture with that.
Yeah, exactly. There's a car. I see a car in town. It's a VW Bug, but somebody painted it white and then put the fucking put the Ghostbuster symbols on the side, on the side doors and on the back. And you're awesome. Like, oh, I mean, it's not the car, but like, I like the sentiment.
Did they, in the new one, did they have Echo 1 in there, or did they have something different? Have you seen the newest one? With Hemsworth and
I mean, I kind of blocked it out. I don't honestly remember. I kind of blocked that movie out of my brain. Like I watched it and I was like, okay, well, I did it.
I saw it. Yeah, I haven't heard any good things about it.
No, it's bad. It's pretty bad.
Well,
I will say though, on speaking on just that movie, I will say this: I did not realize how funny Hemsworth was. I didn't realize that he's actually funny.
I've heard a lot of people say that. Yeah.
He can be funny.
You kind of see that with Thor Ragnarok, though.
You do. You see it a little bit. But yeah, that one kind of made me like, oh, Hemsworth's pretty funny. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like Melissa McCarthy's, hilarious, and I feel like they're all hilarious people, and I it was just the way that movie was written.
I've heard it was kind of like, was it a sequel? Was it a prequel?
Yeah,
it just didn't really.
I felt like, yeah, it just totally missed the mark for me. Not a good movie. It was not a good movie. But I don't put it on specifically anybody in the cast. Like I felt like the performances were there. Yeah, it was just like I said, it was like the writing was bad. The CGI wasn't that great. It was
really,
yeah, very sad face.
Well, let me roll through a few of my and buts. So I had the Mystery Machine.
I had that as well.
The Jurassic Park Ford Explorer. There's not really much cool with it, except it's just kind of like I've seen some people who drive that, like in real life. It's just kind of like that. Oh, cool, but that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if you pick that, then you should pick the little ball things that they had in the newer Jurassic Park movie, or
no, that's a good point. Yeah,
the little rolly ball things.
Balls.
Yeah.
Christine, if you had a car that would protect you from bullies, would be amazing.
I mean, yeah.
And this one is kind of a controversial pick, so I had to throw a little caveat in there. I love Chargers, so I thought, like, what would be better than the Dukes of Hazzard Charger? Except you kind of have to have minus the Confederate flag on the top.
Yeah. Can I have the non-racist Charger, please?
What about your ambush?
So I had I like you said, I had the one car I totally blanked on. The Mystery Machine. Yeah, I had the Mystery Machine. I'm flipping between like two different pages that I had my lists that I had like highlight stuff on. I had the Enterprise. I mean, the Enterprise.
Yeah, I saw that one.
I mean, it's okay, but like I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I like Star Trek, fine. Just if you're asking me, hey, do you want the Enterprise or do you want the Millennium Falcon? Like hands down, I'm picking the fucking Millennium Falcon any goddamn day of the week. I don't care how fast it goes, and I don't care how it's got proton torpedoes. Yeah, but it's not the Millennium Falcon. I had Slave One, which was Boba Fett's ship.
Okay.
I told you I had the Eagle 5 on there, which you picked. I had the car from the Blues Brothers. That was another one I had. The police cruiser that they drove.
That's a good one.
I think that was it. That was it for me. Most of the other ones I had, you picked. So
yeah, I felt like this is a draft that only had so many things to do, but I think we did a good job. Let me run through them and let everybody be the judge on that. So for Richard's first round pick, you had the Millennium Falcon. Second round pick, you had the DeLorean. Third round pick, James Bond Aston Martin. Fourth round pick, 1961 Ferrari 250. Fifth round pick, Mad Max's Gigahorse.
I think it's Gigahorse.
Sixth round pick, 67 Shelby Mustang. And the seventh round money shot pick, the Doctor Who TARDIS. And for me, for my first round pick, I had the Turtles van. Second round pick, Serenity. Third round pick, 89 Batman. Fourth round pick, National Lampoon's Family Truckster. Fifth round pick, Mutt Cuts van. Sixth round pick, Eagle 5. And seventh round money shot pick, Ghostbusters Echo 1.
Like a lot of these drafts, I look at, I look at my list and I look at your list and I'm like, my list is so much better. Like he's got things on his list that I wouldn't pick in a million years. I will say that when it comes to this list for you, a lot of those are ones I would probably pick myself.
Yeah, I don't think there's a bad pick in this run.
Yeah. I mean, mine's still better, but I'm just saying, like, of the efforts that you have made, this one
I haven't embarrassed you this time.
This is one of your strongest efforts to date.
All right. Well, you want to close this up with some Richard's closing thoughts?
If anybody wants to, sell or let me and give me one of these vehicles, especially the Millennium Falcon, just let me know. And if I'm allowed to walk in the Millennium Falcon, okay, so when that park opens, when that Star Wars Galaxy Edge opens, I am 100% going to go there before I die. Like, that's, it's on the list. Like, that has to happen before the end. But if I am allowed to walk around in the Millennium Falcon by myself, and not even for a long time, just like 7 minutes, just enough time for me to walk through the air, the big areas, and just kind of experience it myself. Just if you give me 7 minutes alone in the Millennium Falcon, I'm going to cry. It's going to be like the Grand Canyon for me, and I'm saying this with a completely serious face. Like that would be a pinnacle. If Disney sells an option, hey, if you pay $350, you can spend 7 minutes in the Millennium Falcon by yourself. Obviously, don't jerk off because there's cameras. But if you just want to walk around in there by yourself for 7 minutes, and you pay us
$750,
yeah. If you pay us X amount of money, you get to walk around the Millennium Falcon for 7 minutes by yourself. Shawn, I'm paying that money.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
It's one of those it's one of those things that no, that's worth it. I don't care. It's worth it.
Once in a lifetime thing, man.
Oh my God. I would lose my fucking mind. I would probably I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, I know I'd cry. I know I would. And I'm not ashamed. Not ashamed one bit.
All right. Well, before the waterworks turn on, let me do a little bit of housekeeping. Visit our website. We're at languageofbromance.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at languageofbro, and email us at eatthebeaver@languageofbromance.com. Like us on Facebook, and join us as part of the Pod Bros Network.
The vehicle of all your great podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Well, is there anything else before I close her out?
Buy me a car or let me walk in the Millennium Falcon by myself. If anybody wants to pay for that, just, send a check our way.
Patreon.com/Language of Bromance.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all the Bromance we have for this show. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
And I say, before we get to the end of this drive, we eat the beaver.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if we make it like a Patreon thing, then I'll film it. I'll film it on my phone. You can watch you want to watch a grown man cry because he's walking around in a fucking made up spaceship? Send me your dollars.
But they said no jerking off.
And then it goes on Pornhub.